So if you're here, my guess is that something in your relationship just feels a little off, right? It's not always some big dramatic fight. A lot of the time, it's this quiet, nagging feeling that you just can't shake. And I want you to know you are definitely not alone in feeling that. It's that tiny shift, isn't it? The replies get just a little bit slower. The plans get a little more vague, and you find yourself making excuses for them, telling yourself, oh, they're just busy. But deep down, there's a part of you that knows something's changed. That feeling, it's real, and it's so important to listen to it. You know that knot of anxiety in your stomach, that constant feeling like you need reassurance? That is not you being needy or crazy. As the wellness publication The Vessel puts it, that's often your body reacting to unpredictability. It's picking up on the inconsistency. It's a signal, a really important one.
Okay, so let's get into it. The whole point of this is not to point fingers or assign blame. It's about looking at the actual evidence with clear eyes. We're going to break down the patterns so you can finally move from that feeling of confusion to a place of clarity.
First step, let's talk about the absolute lifeblood of any relationship, communication. Seriously, the way you two talk to each other, or maybe more importantly, the way you don't talk, can tell you everything you need to know. So this brings up a really crucial idea: emotional labor. What is that exactly? Well, it means you're the one who's always starting the serious conversations, you're the one trying to soothe their bad moods, you're basically carrying the entire emotional weight of the relationship on your back. In a healthy, balanced connection, that stuff is shared. It shouldn't feel like one person is doing all the work while the other just replies. Just think about it for a second. When you try to talk about your feelings, your dreams, or even your fears, what actually happens? Do they suddenly change the subject? Or shut down? Or worse, do they call you too intense? If that's a regular thing, they're not just dodging one awkward conversation. They might be avoiding real, genuine intimacy altogether. Oof, this one is such a subtle but really powerful form of disrespect. Look, a partner who truly prioritizes you doesn't have to be obsessed with everything you love, but they should respect the joy it brings you. They should be curious because you're passionate about it. If they just dismiss it, they're kind of signaling that parts of who you are just aren't that important to them. All right, let's move on to our next section, which is all about effort. Because honestly, at the end of the day, actions speak so much louder than words, right? What they do is a much clearer language. Okay, the number one telltale sign that you're an option: inconsistency. One week, they are completely all in. They're present, they're affectionate, they're engaged, and then the next week, poof, they're distant, vague, and suddenly impossible to get a hold of. That hot and cold behavior is absolutely destabilizing. It's designed to keep you off balance. This just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? A partner who makes you a priority gives you a sense of security. You shouldn't feel like you're some kind of detective constantly trying to decode their texts or analyze their every move. A real connection doesn't just evaporate because they had a busy week. And this is where you start to see a real pattern of low effort. I mean, sure, everybody gets busy, but being perpetually busy for you? That's an excuse. Plans that are always last minute? That just means you only fit into their schedule when it's convenient for them. And if they're nowhere to be found when life gets hard, well, that's a huge sign you're navigating your biggest challenges all alone. This is so critical. We're not just talking about them forgetting to pick up milk from the store. It's about the big promises and the small ones. When someone consistently breaks their word, what they're really showing you is that their commitments to you just don't matter that much. And without reliability, there's no solid foundation to build on. Okay, for our third and final section on the evidence, let's get to the real heart of it, the connection itself. This is where being treated like an option can hurt the most. This is a tough one to ask yourself, but it's really important. When you tell them you're hurt or upset or worried about something, what is their gut reaction? Do they actually listen and try to understand, or do they immediately try to shut you down? Wow, this quote from The Vessel is just so powerful. When you hear things like, "You're overreacting," or "You're just being too sensitive," that is minimization in action. It's a tactic to dodge responsibility and, frankly, to tell you that your feelings are an inconvenience. A partner who prioritizes you will make space for your feelings, even when they don't totally get them. This timeline really shows how being left out of the future can sneak up on you. The relationship advice site The Expert Editor shares this story about a person whose partner planned their entire college graduation ceremony without even thinking to invite them. It's so painful, but it's also crystal clear. When someone truly sees a future with you, they naturally, automatically start saying we. This is a big one. If they're constantly making up excuses for why you haven't met their family or their closest friends, that is a major red flag. They're actively keeping you in a separate little box, away from what they consider their real life. Someone who is proud and excited to be with you wants to show you off, to weave you into their world.
Let's just end this section with the ultimate gut check. A healthy, loving relationship should be your safe harbor. It should be a source of security, not a constant source of anxiety that makes you second-guess your own worth. If you feel unsettled more often than you feel at peace, your body is screaming at you that something is fundamentally wrong.
Okay, we've looked at all the evidence, but just identifying the problem, that's only half the journey. So now, let's shift our focus to the solution. This is where you start to find your power and move towards that clarity you absolutely deserve. Psychology Today gives us this perfect definition. This is really the root of the problem, isn't it? The other person just assumes you're not going anywhere, so why should they bother putting in the work? Just recognizing that this is what's happening is a huge first step toward changing the dynamic. Before you do anything else, the very first step is always to look inward. Sometimes we let ourselves be an option because we haven't quite learned how to make ourselves a priority. Be honest with yourself, but be gentle. Are you actually communicating what you need, or are you just hoping they'll magically read your mind? And here it is, what Psychology Today calls the ultimate test. I want you to try this. Calmly and clearly bring up one of your concerns. Now, a partner who truly values you might not be able to fix it right away, but they will listen, they'll try to understand. If they get defensive or dismiss you or act annoyed, they're showing you that your needs are a burden. Their reaction is your answer. Just let that one sink in for a minute. If you come to the conclusion that you need to make a change or even walk away, that is not a selfish act. It is an act of honoring yourself. It's you being honest about what you need and what you truly deserve from a partnership. And really, that's what it all comes down to. Love that is real, love that is sustainable, it shouldn't leave you hanging in uncertainty. It should meet you where you are. So the final question isn't really about them anymore, is it? It's about you.